many things. And sometimes it's just a word. Just a word. And again, the more you'll see stuff in the Bible, the more other, even obscure passages make sense. I want you to look at Isaiah 26. Now, we'll come back to it, but I want to look at verse 14. This is kind of where we ended the last time I preached on this. But verse 13 is the word. There's a word I want you to catch. And I thought, in context to verse 14, Bible people in the world that doesn't discuss this. It says in verse number 13, O Lord our God, Adon, it's not Adonai, it's other controllers, other almost like gods. Adonai is another name for God. And Isaiah's talking here, and if you remember, I mean, I'm gonna catch you up. If you remember, and I'm not trying, it just takes forever, but I said from Isaiah 14 to Isaiah 27 is a microcosm to everything that's going on in this whole universe from beginning to end. Everything. I showed you Isaiah 14 is when Satan, the first words uttered in the universe that started this whole mess, when Satan said, I will ascend. That's Isaiah 14. And I showed you in all the next chapters is 10 different nations that God is going to hammer at the end times. One of them probably is America. Isaiah 18, I wouldn't argue with that. I've preached on it in the past. It's the only one that's not named. I said it in Sunday school. It has to do with the eagles. It's connected to eagles. It's a land that's full of water, and it's a land that's been meted out and measured, and there's no other place on earth that's been measured out like America, way beyond the waters of Ethiopia. Good chance it's America. And all the other 9 are the very ones that we deal with today. And I said the last one he dealt with was Lebanon, and I didn't explain that. Look at verse 20, chapter 23, the burden of Tyre. Why would he end with Lebanon? And that's why we kind of ended on. I didn't ever make that the statement. I would have thought he'd ended with Israel or Judah. But he ends up with Lebanon, how he's going to hammer them. And if you know your Bible, there is about a 99 chance out of 100 that when Satan messed this world up big time, not when he sinned up in heaven in Isaiah 14, but when he came down to this earth, he entered into the Garden of Eden where he shouldn't have been, that he probably entered through Lebanon. And I showed you Amos 9 is talking about Armageddon, and God's talking about fighting Armageddon, and he talks about the Antichrist, the seed, and he said, I'm going to chase you to hell if I have to. He said, you can climb back up into heaven. You can try to jump to hell on Mount Carmel. I'm going to chase a serpent, the devil. He's going to chase you down and go kill you. Now, why? Again, if you know your Bible, that is the point of entry right below Lebanon. I said the Baha'i faith has a temple there. They believe that's where sin entered this world. And they got 9 steps that go down. And I like just standing there and thinking, I can imagine the devil, this is Lebanon. And that wasn't part of the program, the Garden of Eden. And when he stepped on to Mount Carmel and come up that mountain, that's when God said, you entered my Eden, you barked my fig tree. That's from Lebanon. And then when Armageddon happens, it sounds to me like the Antichrist, he literally says, you can run to Mount Carmel. Why would he say that? Why would he pick out Mount Carmel, one mountain of hundreds in Israel alone, and say the Antichrist, you can run to Carmel and try to jump back to hell if you want? Well, where does the Antichrist come from? He comes from hell, the bottomless pit. Where is he trying to jump to? Heaven. He said you can jump is he trying to make a leap back to Papa, Daddy, the devil? And the devil betrays him just like he did Judas. And he'll be killed right there on that spot where Elijah pulled down fire. Then look at chapter 24. Behold, the Lord maketh the earth empty. This is the tribulation. Maketh it waste and turneth it upside down. Oh, man, I've preached this. It's unbelievable. I wish I could read the whole thing, but I got to move. Verse number 3, the land shall be utterly emptied. Now that's Israel. Israel is going to be almost annihilated. This is one of the verses. I've told you this, but here's one of many verses. Israel is going to be burned with fire. There's going to be not anybody left in any of the cities. except the city of Jerusalem. I really believe it's going to be nuked. It's going to be absolutely destroyed. The land shall be utterly emptied and utterly spoiled, for the Lord has spoken. The earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth is defiled under the inhabitants. Verse 6, therefore hath the curse devoured the earth. There's a curse that's just been going and going and going. That's the word Allah. Allah again. Allah has devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. Again, if you know other places where it'll talk about Matthew 24:22. Except those days shall be short, and there shall no flesh be saved. Here it is. There's hardly going to be, by the time the tribulation's done, and I do believe Israel's going to be the cause of a lot of it. I'm not anti-Semitic at all. And if you understand that they're God's people, and God said, I'll deal with them. And I read this morning in Sunday school in Ezekiel 35, God said to the Palestinian people in Ezekiel 35, to the Edomites, he said, look, you should have left my people alone because their iniquity was fulfilled. I already judged that, and you took it upon yourself to judge them. Be careful you don't do that. God knows He's keeping track of every sin, and He's going to judge them. He's going to send them through what the Bible calls the furnace of fire, called the tribulation, and they're going to be killed by the millions. God will judge you. It's not your job. He got mad at the Edomites saying, I already dealt with that. You remember that phrase I told you? Some of you might remember or not. When Abraham was talking to God, he said, now I'm going to send you down to Egypt for 400 years.